The latest One Piece chapter just confirmed something absolutely insane. There are two legendary devil fruits capable of destroying the entire world. One belongs to Luffy, Nika. The other belongs to Loki, Nidhogg. And when you realize what that actually means for Emu and the world government, everything changes. Welcome to Super Synth D Studio, where One Piece spoilers hit different. If you live for wild theories and hype breakdowns, hit that like button, drop a comment, give hype, and don't forget to subscribe. Let's dive in. One Piece. Chapter 1170 opens with an editor's note. An attack from a hammer? Yes, the hammer Ragnar suddenly launches itself out of the treasure storage room and attacks Loki. Loki is sent flying. He barely manages to dodge the attack, and as a result, Ragnar slams straight into the wall. This moment further proves that Loki's observation hockey is on a completely different level, because Ragnar moved at insane speed. Yet Loki still managed to react and evade it. Furious, Loki immediately gets back on his feet and shouts toward the treasure room, readying his own hammer in case another attack comes flying at him. Bastard, who's there? Who threw that hammer at me? Show yourself, you bastard! Loki walks toward the entrance of the treasure storage room, confused, because there is absolutely no one inside. Loki decides not to dwell on it any longer because right now, his priority is to eat the legendary devil fruit as soon as possible. But suddenly, Loki is shocked once again by the sound of a massive cracking noise. Ragnar is lying on the floor, but the ground beneath it begins to crack. Loki grows even more confused by what is happening with that hammer. The cracks spread rapidly across the floor, causing it to collapse, and Loki immediately runs away. Loki can't believe it, that a hammer simply lying on the ground could be so heavy that it shatters the entire floor. He runs faster and farther, as the floor continues to crumble beneath him, wondering what is really happening to his castle, and assuming that the structure itself must be growing weak. Eventually, the castle floor completely collapses. Loki survives the fall, but now he lies sprawled on the ground below. The scene then shifts to Harald, who is now surrounded by the giant royal guards. In his left hand, he holds a sword. In his right hand, he grips an axe. Yeah, at this point, Harald straight up looks like Kratos. Harald reveals that he has been watching everything that happened to Loki. He tells Loki that all of his actions are completely pointless, because the devil fruit that has become Elbaf's national treasure has not been eaten by anyone for hundreds of years. No one has ever been able to eat it, because Ragnar has never acknowledged anyone. Loki continues running, as the hammer Ragnar relentlessly tries to attack him again and again. Harald speaks once more, declaring that with the power he possesses now, as Harald is speaking, the scene shows Gaban's axe and Shanks' sword emitting black lightning, clear proof that they are coating their weapons with advanced Conqueror's haki. Gaban and Shanks successfully sever Harald's right leg, using attacks coded with Conqueror's haki, catching Harald completely off guard by the sudden strike. Gaban then explains to Shanks that the attack will cause Harald intense pain, and that his regeneration will be significantly slowed. And if they continue launching a relentless barrage of attacks against the Knights of God, they can eventually push those so-called immortal knights into a completely helpless state. Those who can coat their attacks with Conqueror's haki are the weakness of these creatures, Gaban declares. Harald glares sharply at Gaban and asks if he truly dares to challenge him now. In response, Gaban and Shanks slash Harald once again, their attacks once more coated in Haoshoku haki, and this time they successfully sever Harald's left leg. Gaban answers firmly, "Of course! Do you really think we'd let someone like you, who's already lost his sanity, do whatever he wants?" Shanks then asks Gaban how he knows so much about the weaknesses of the Knights of God. Gaban explains that the Knights of God came more than once to try and take Shanks away from the Roger Pirates. A brief flashback is shown, depicting an encounter between the Knights of God and the Roger Pirates. The Knight of God who appears is shown only in silhouette. He questions Roger's crew about the red-haired child they are currently raising. After seeing baby Shanks, The Knight of God becomes convinced that Shanks is the child of their captain and demands that the Roger pirates immediately hand the child over to them. With a wide grin, Gaban explains that every single time the Knights of God tried to take Shanks from them, he personally crushed them and drove them away. Hearing Gaban's story, Shanks recalls the words of a Knight of God named Summers, who once said the exact same thing Gaban just described. Gaban smiles again, as Shanks' words bring back memories of a story from long ago. Gaban admits that he was actually shocked when he first learned that there was a combat force stationed in the Holy Land, because he believed that all celestial dragons were nothing but useless trash. Shanks responds by saying that in this world, the celestial dragons almost never descend to the surface. They truly believe that they themselves are gods. And just thinking about it sends chills down Shanks' spine, because that could have been the entire life he was destined to live. Gaban says that this is what is called fate. Yes, Gaban once again brings up the word fate to Shanks, just like before, when they were bathing together at Gaban's house, and Gaban referred to Shanks as a child of destiny. So what does Gaban truly mean by fate? Could this be connected to the information they obtained? On Laughtale, there are several interesting revelations in this panel. The conversation between Shanks and Gaban about Summers confirms that Gaban and Summers fought many times in the past, and that Summers was defeated every single time by Gaban. This explains why Summers was absolutely terrified when he learned that Gaban was on Elbaf. Another revelation from this panel is that Shanks is actually left-handed. He holds his sword with his left hand, confirming that his dominant hand is his left. This is why Shanks' sword sheath is always positioned on his right hip. However, Shanks was forced to sacrifice his dominant arm, allowing it to be eaten by a Sea King, in order to break free from Imu's contract. And this is the true reason why Dracul Mihawk no longer has any desire to fight red-haired Shanks. Because Shanks lost his dominant hand, Mihawk believes that Shanks' swordsmanship has significantly declined. Shanks and Gaban leap forward once again to attack Harald, but this time, Harald tries to counterattack, swinging his axe straight at them. We can clearly see that Harald's legs are still severed because his regeneration has significantly slowed down. Shanks tells Gaban that, deep down, he actually wants to save Harald. However, Gaban responds by saying that it was Shanks himself who once told him about the destruction that awaits anyone who becomes part of the Knights of God. Here, Gaban smiles again and says that the only hope they have right now is Loki. Shanks remains silent, but Gaban's words are filled with hidden meaning. Gaban is capable of using future sight, and the question is, has he already seen a future where Loki is able to defeat Harald, a man who possesses immortality? The scene then shifts back to Loki and Ragnar. Loki shouts at Ragnar, demanding that it immediately move out of his way, but the hammer Ragnar refuses to budge. Loki has just realized that Ragnar is actually the guardian of Elbaf's national treasure, a legendary devil fruit that Loki intends to eat. What confuses Loki is why this object can move on its own, even though it is supposed to be nothing more than a hammer. Suddenly, Loki is shocked once again. Ragnar begins to float into the air, swinging back and forth, preparing to attack him. Loki has completely had enough. He prepares to strike Ragnar, using his own hammer. Black lightning erupts from Loki's weapon, signaling that he is coating his attack with advanced Conqueror's Haki. Loki's hammer collides head-on with Ragnar, but instantly, Loki's hammer shatters into countless pieces from the impact. Loki screams in despair, mourning the destruction of his weapon, while Ragnar is sent flying and crashes onto the ground. Ragnar pauses for a moment, and then partially transforms into a squirrel. Its eyes spin wildly, and it clearly looks to be in pain. Its head remains in the shape of a hammer, but its lower body has now become that of a squirrel. There is a massive bump on its head, right at the exact spot where Loki struck it. Loki stares at the squirrel in total confusion. The squirrel version of Ragnar grumbles angrily, clearly upset with Loki. The scene then cuts back to Harald, who is now rampaging uncontrollably. attacking every royal giant guard that stands in his way. Shanks asks Gaban what they should do to stop Harald, who is becoming more and more barbaric. Gaban replies that their opponent is now also using Conqueror's Haki, and that this is the first time he has ever fought a member of the Knights of God, who also possesses Haoshoku Haki. Jarl shouts, ordering all royal soldiers to hold Harald back for as long as possible. Harald must not be allowed to obtain the legendary Devil Fruit. Harald continues his rampage. He slaughters every royal soldier who tries to stop him. His body is shown pierced by swords and spears, weapons belonging to the very soldiers who are trying to bring him down. The scene then returns to Loki. Ragnar, still in its squirrel form, finally acknowledges Loki. The treasure chest opens, and the Devil Fruit is now in Loki's hand. The massive treasure chest is deceptive, because inside it is only a normal-sized Devil Fruit, looking incredibly small in the palm of Loki's hand. The Devil Fruit has a normal-looking stem, but the fruit itself is covered in sharp, thorn-like spikes. Loki eats the Devil Fruit. It looks as if he is swallowing a medicinal pill. Loki begins to grow sharp claws, and something resembling spiked hair or hardened thorns emerges from his back. Loki's form transforms into a massive silhouette with no clear shape, making it impossible to determine what kind of creature he has become. Meanwhile, Ragnar, still in its squirrel form, jumps around, shouting in pure excitement and admiration. In his Zoan form, Loki rushes toward the place where Harald is. Harald is shown still slaughtering his own soldiers. Then at last, he senses Loki's presence. Harald realizes that Loki has already consumed the legendary Devil Fruit, and he demands that Loki show him the legendary power of that Devil Fruit. Loki attacks Harald with his claws, sending him flying. Harald immediately gets back up, but claw marks are clearly carved into his body. Loki attacks Harald again, tearing his head apart. We are never truly shown what Loki's Zoan form actually looks like. Everything is only visible as a shadow. And now, Loki appears to be using his hybrid form. Loki then returns to his human form and prepares to attack Harald using the hammer Ragnar. Black lightning bursts out once again from his attack. This means Loki is preparing to strike Harald using advanced Conqueror's Haki. At that moment, Harald regains a bit of control over himself. In a fatigued, broken voice, he says, just as I thought, Loki, within you flows the blood of a conqueror. Yes, Harald is referring to the fact that Loki also possesses Haoshoku Haki. Loki stops in his tracks when he realizes that his father has regained consciousness. But Harald tells Loki to keep attacking him. He says that this clarity is only temporary, and that Loki must not be deceived by it. Harald also asks Loki to look around him. Yes, the royal soldiers are dead because of Harald's own brutality, and what he has done can no longer be forgiven. Loki shouts, insisting that everything his father has done is because he is currently being controlled. Harald explains that he is not being fully controlled. Rather, his own thoughts have already begun to fall under the influence of that creature. Harald even admits that he has started to see himself as a god. Harald believes that Loki can lead Elbaf with honor, together with his older brother. He asks Loki and Hajrudin to live in harmony. Loki screams, calling Harald the worst father imaginable for ordering his own son to end his father's life. At the moment Loki says this, the scene shows Shanks and Gaban sitting near Jarul. Shanks lowers his head, clearly understanding what Loki is feeling right now. Loki continues shouting, even the cruelest parent would never ask their own child to do something like this. Harald then says something he nearly forgot to say. He thanks Loki for the incident involving Ida. Loki is shocked, wondering how his father could possibly know the true reason behind Ida's death. Harald says, burning the brewer's village will not bring Ida back, but I truly appreciate your feelings, because you genuinely, truly loved her. Harald senses something from the mark of his contract with Imusama. He asks Loki to finish him immediately, because he feels that the creature will soon take control of his body once again. Loki swings Ragnar once more, coating it with advanced Conqueror's Haki. He shouts, I will hold a grudge against you for this bastard, for forcing me to do filthy work like this. Harald smiles at Loki for the very last time. Then he says, "I do too. I love you." Yes, what Loki says about holding a grudge, what he says in rage and hatred, is understood by Harald as a simple expression of "I love you" from Loki. That is why Harald responds with "I do too. I love you." A complete reversal of what Loki actually said. And that is the origin of this chapter's title, Urahara, which means opposite or reversed. Loki coats Ragnar with Haushoku Haki and slams it down onto Harald. A massive bolt of lightning strikes and crashes into Orr's castle. In an epic final double-page spread, Loki brings Ragnar down onto Harald's body. Harald is engulfed by lightning, and the attack completely obliterates the entire middle section of his body. Loki breaks down in tears. A flashback of Harald's first meeting with baby Loki is shown. Harald closes his eyes for the final time. With his last words, Harald says, "What matters most is the future of Elbaf." Final editor's note, entrusting his hopes. The battle between Loki and Harald has confirmed many extremely interesting things. Ragnar is a weapon that has eaten a squirrel devil fruit. However, based on its appearance, Ragnar's squirrel form seems to be a normal squirrel, not a mythical zone creature. So then, where does the lightning power that appears every time Ragnar is swung actually come from? From these panels, it is clear that the lightning is real lightning, originating from nature itself. That means this power is a special ability inherent to the hammer Ragnar itself, similar to Zoro's sword, Enma. Then what exactly is the legendary devil fruit that Loki consumed? From the shadowy form that was shown, we can tell that Loki has claws, a long neck, and a back or hair that resembles sharp spikes. From the details we have seen, Loki's zone form closely resembles Nidhogg, the dragon from Norse mythology that endlessly gnaws at the roots of the world tree, Yggdrasil. If you look even more closely, one of the nightmares feared by the giant children of Elbafs is the monster Nidhogg. Oda did not depict this without reason, because Loki is indeed the user of the Nidhogg devil fruit. If it is true that Elbaf's legendary devil fruit is one of the devil fruits that Xebec sought in order to rule the world, then that means this fruit, together with the Nika devil fruit, are the two main keys needed to defeat Imusama. Luffy, with his Nika devil fruit, and Loki, with his Nidhogg devil fruit, will form an alliance to destroy the world government and Imusama himself. This chapter wasn't just about power. It was about inheritance, destiny, and opposites colliding. Nika, the god of liberation. Nidhogg, the dragon that devours the roots of the world. Two forces born to shatter the same system, from completely opposite directions. If these two truly stand together, the world of One Piece will never recover. If this chapter blew your mind, drop a like, leave your thoughts in the comments, and let me know. Are Nika and Nidhogg truly the keys to defeating Imu? Subscribe for more One Piece breakdowns, spoilers, and wild theories. This story is only getting crazier.